Good morning, sweet friends, and welcome to another Read Aloud. Today is April 1st, also known as April Fool's Day. So, someone in your family may or may not try to play a trick on you today. It's famous for that. People playing pranks and tricks on each other just to be silly, nothing that would ever hurt them. So we are going to have a story today about another character that we are familiar with in our classroom, Gilbert. So here is April Fool. Watch out at school. If only we could watch out at school, but not today, not this year, but maybe next year. So this is in the Gilbert series. Look at Gilbert. Look at his apple. Do you see that worm? And look over here. There's a spider. So let's find out. We know that in most Gilbert books, Gilbert is always getting into trouble. Always getting into trouble. Getting rid of a partner that he doesn't like, not being honest, and taking someone else's, or taking a prop from school for the school play, getting Halloween costumes mixed up. Do you remember when he had to wear Lola's ballerina costume for their costume parade at school because he grabbed the wrong bag? Oh, Gilbert. So here we go. April Fool, watch out at school. So look, here's Gilbert waking up kind of like you did this morning, looking at his calendar. Today is Wednesday, April 1st, 2020. Gilbert woke up and looked at the calendar. It was April 1st, April Fool's Day. He hopped out of bed and started filling his backpack with tricks to play on his friends. His sister Lola peeked in the door and said, "Knock, knock." Gilbert answered, "Who's there?" "April Fool," Lola shouted. Gilbert laughed and explained, "You're supposed to play a trick on someone, Lola, not tell jokes." "Okay," Lola said, "do a trick on me." But Gilbert didn't have time to play tricks on his little sister. He was already out the door. So look, here he is. Do you see Lola in the doorway? Now let's look at some of the things he has for his backpack. He's got a plastic spider. This says ants. Uh-oh. Magic cards. And in his hand up here it says spicy gum. So gum that's really hot. So let's see what happens at school. Gilbert met Patty on the corner. As they walked to school, Patty suddenly said, "Watch out, Gilbert, your shoe's untied." Gilbert stopped to tie his shoe, but it was already tied. "Gotcha," said Patty. "April Fool." Gilbert laughed. He couldn't wait to try that trick on someone else. Principal Pug smiled and waved when he saw them. "Morning good," he said. "Day nice, have." He was talking backward. The bell rang, and Patty said to Gilbert, "Up, hurry, let's," instead of "let's hurry up." So the principal has decided to talk backward all day. Patty played a trick already on Gilbert about his shoe. Do you see Principal Pug right here? And there's Gilbert and Patty walking into the school. Now, did either of those tricks hurt anyone? No, it just is sort of like that game, made you look. Mrs. Bird was not smiling or waving. She said, "Put away your tricks so we can get started with our reading lesson. Gilbert, please start on page 10. Gilbert stood up and read out loud. "Where is my book?" Sam asked. "I need it now." Mrs. Bird stopped him and said, "When someone reads out loud, it would be nice to know where the punctuation marks are." Then she said, "Here's an idea. When you come to a period, say pop. And when you see quotation marks, say pff. A question mark could be, huh? And an exclamation point is boing. Try it." Now, here they are. Here's Gilbert standing up to read his book. What do you notice about the board behind Mrs. Bird? Do you notice how April is written upside down? That is very silly. So let's see what it sounds like when Gilbert reads with punctuation marks. Gilbert took a deep breath and started. "Pff, where is my book? Huh? Pff," Sam asked. "Pop, pff, I need it now." Boing. "Whew," Gilbert said. "This is hard." Louis said, "And it sure is funny." Boing. Everyone laughed. Mrs. Bird laughed too. "Thank you for being such a good sport, Gilbert." April Fool. Gilbert sat down and made a loud pfft sound in his seat. "That wasn't me," he cried. "Someone put a whoopee cushion there." "Gotcha," said Louis. So a whoopee cushion, if you don't know, is a cushion that you put air in. And when you sit on it, it kind of makes a funny sound. So Gilbert's had a lot of tricks played on him, hasn't he? He hasn't played tricks on anyone yet. They finished their reading silently, but Gilbert kept thinking pop and boing whenever he saw a period or an exclamation point. He also kept thinking about how he could play a trick on Louis. He had hot, spicy gum in his pocket, so he turned to Louis and asked, "Would you like a piece of gum, Louis?" "No way," Louis said. Later, Gilbert put a plastic spider on Louis's desk when he wasn't looking. "This is so fake," Louis said when he handed it back. Then he slapped Gilbert on the back and said, "Your tricks are the worst." So look, here he is trying to offer Louis a piece of spicy gum. And here's Louis bringing that plastic spider back. Poor Gilbert, he's trying, but it's not really working out for him, is it? Now, don't forget, Louis slapped Gilbert on the back. Keep that in your brain because it's going to be important in a minute. But Gilbert wasn't giving up. He still had a few more tricks up his sleeve. He also had a sign on his back that said, "I smell." No wonder everyone was snickering as he walked to the cafeteria. "Louis," grumbled Gilbert. So do you see the sign on his back? So when Louis brought the spider back, he had this sign in his hand that Gilbert couldn't see. So when he patted Gilbert on the back, he stuck it to the back of him. It's not the nicest thing in the world, but again, it doesn't cause injury to Gilbert, right? Before he ate, Gilbert first checked his seat for a whoopee cushion. There was none, so he sat down and opened his lunchbox. Suddenly, he jumped out of his seat and yelled, "Ah! There was a worm in his apple." "It's just a gummy worm," Patty said, "and look, there's a note." The note said, "April Fool." It was signed, Mother. Gilbert couldn't believe it. Even his mother had tricked him. So do you see? It's from the front of the book almost. Do you see that worm sticking out of the apple? His old mom tricked him on April Fool Day. At recess, Frank said, "Watch out, Gilbert! There's a bee on your head." Gilbert swatted his head while Frank laughed and said, "April Fool." Margaret said, "Watch out, Gilbert! Your shoe's untied." Gilbert bent again to tie his shoe. "Made you look," Margaret said. Gilbert sighed. He couldn't believe he had fallen for that trick twice in one day. Then Philip shouted, "Watch out, Gilbert!" Now, if you remember Philip is his duck friend that he didn't really care for in the Thanksgiving story, and he lost him on purpose on his field trip and then got stuck in the bathroom. So Philip said, "Watch out, Gilbert!" But Gilbert wasn't going to get tricked again. He said, "I'm not." Before he could finish, a kickball smacked him in the head. "I told you to watch out," Philip said. "I thought it was another trick," Gilbert groaned as he rubbed his head. "This is the worst April Fool's Day ever. Everybody's playing tricks on me, but I can't trick anyone." "I told you your tricks were bad," Louis laughed. "You'll never trick anyone." So look, do you see the kickball? So Philip wasn't trying to be silly. He was really telling Gilbert to watch out. Now, Gilbert's being a little whiny. Poor me, poor me, poor me. I can't trick anyone, but has he really tried anything different? Remember, he was going to try your shoes untied to someone, and he hasn't tried that yet. Louis does say his tricks are pretty bad. What do you think Gilbert's going to do about this? He's got this problem. Everyone's tricking him, but he's not tricking anybody. Let's see what happens. Gilbert said, "That's what you think, Louis. I have one more trick I've been saving just for you." Louis laughed again and said, "What is it?" "I'm not telling you. You'll have to wait and see." Gilbert whispered to Patty what his trick was, and Patty said loudly, "You're right, Gilbert. That's the best trick ever." Louis snorted and said, "You'll never April fool me." What do you think Gilbert's got up his sleeve? What kind of trick is he going to play on Louis? Louis is pretty good about catching Gilbert's tricks. Any thoughts? All right, let's see if you're right. As they walked back into the classroom, Gilbert said, "Oh, Louis, let me hold that door for you." Louis asked, "Is this your trick?" "No," said Gilbert. He held the door open, and Louis walked through very quickly. During spelling, Louis couldn't find his eraser. Gilbert said, "Here, Louis, you can borrow mine." Louis looked at the eraser and said, "Is that a trick?" "No," Gilbert said. But Louis inspected the eraser very carefully before he used it. So now Louis is thinking, anytime Gilbert is trying to be nice, it is a trick. Holding the door, was that a trick? Nope. Letting him borrow the eraser, was that a trick? Nope. But Louis has it in his head that Gilbert is going to play a trick on him. And he doesn't want to get tricked by Gilbert. So every time he's like, "Are you trying to trick me? Are you trying to trick me?" When they went to the art table, Gilbert pulled out a chair and said, "Here you go, Louis. Have a seat." Louis looked at the chair and said, "It's a trick, right?" "No," Gilbert said. But Louis checked the chair very carefully for a whoopee cushion before he sat down. When Louis got up to clean his brush, Gilbert said, "Be careful, Louis. Your shoe is untied." "Ha," Louis said. "I'm not falling for that old trick." But his shoe was untied, and Louis did fall when he stepped on the lace. Everyone laughed. "I told you it was untied," Gilbert said. "I thought that was your trick," Louis said, tying his shoe. "No," Gilbert said. "My trick is much better than that." So there he is, looking in the chair for a whoopee cushion. There is none. Gilbert's just being nice. Here, look, his shoe really was untied. Gilbert wasn't trying to trick him. He was trying to be helpful. But Louis didn't listen. During quiet time, Gilbert brought a book to Louis and said, "I think you should read this, Louis. I really liked it." Louis wouldn't take the book. He said, "Is it a fake book? Is it glued shut? Is it going to squirt me with water when I open it?" "No," Gilbert said. "I just think it's a really good book." Louis took the book, but he couldn't concentrate on the story. He kept looking over his shoulder to see what Gilbert was up to. So look, Gilbert's just trying to be nice. But Louis is so worried that Gilbert is going to pull a trick on him that he can't even focus on what job he's supposed to be doing. Louis was so busy watching out for Gilbert's trick, he didn't see Kenny putting a fake spider on his desk. Louis screamed when he saw it. "Gotcha," Kenny said. And when Patty told Louis his shoe was untied, he bent down to tie it. "Gotcha," Patty said. And when Louis said, on his own whoopee cushion? And Margaret said, "Gotcha." Everyone laughed. When the bell rang, Louis finally shouted, "I give up, Gilbert. I can't stand it anymore. Do your trick already." So look, spider, got him. Shoe being untied, but not really, got him. His own whoopee cushion, got him. And here he is. He's like, "Gilbert, I just can't take it." Do you think that's going to make Gilbert do his trick? Gilbert smiled and said, "There isn't any trick, Louis. I just made you think there was. You got April fooled." Gotcha. So Gilbert's trick was to make Louis think there was going to be a trick. So Louis was worried all day long that Gilbert was going to play a trick on him. Instead, everyone else did. And that is April Fool, watch out at school. Did Gilbert have a little bit of trouble in this story? Sure he did. He normally does. His problem was, do you remember? That's right. His problem was he couldn't seem to play a trick on anyone at school, but people were playing tricks on him. Finally, he decided to get Louis by pretending that he was going to play a trick, which caused Louis to think about it all day long. And then in the end, was there really a trick? It's up to you to decide. So, at home today, if you watch this, see if you can trick a friend in your house. And nothing that would hurt them, but maybe saying, "Oh, your shoe's untied," or "Oh, there's a spider on your shoulder," or "Oh, your shirt's on backwards," and see if they will look and say, "Ah, April Fool made you look," just kind of like what Gilbert did. Now, this is for one day only. This is only on April 1st. Tomorrow will be April 2nd. It will no longer be April Fool's Day. So, find someone in your house today. Tell them what happened to Gilbert, what his trouble was, and how he solved it. And I hope you enjoyed our newest adventure with one of our favorite friends, Gilbert. And I hope to see you again next time. Have a great day. April Fool. Bye.